talk English.
Riding shotgun. Backseat driver. We're losing daylight.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
Right. There is an entire version of American English that only really makes sense inside a car. And today, we decode it.
I'm so ready for this. It's such a fun topic.
It really is. So think about this. You are sitting in a sleek, glass-walled corporate boardroom, right? Like the 40th floor of some downtown skyscraper.
Completely removed from the street.
Exactly. There isn't a car or a steering wheel or a stretch of asphalt anywhere in sight. And yet, if you listen to the conversation, the marketing director says the new ad campaign has hit a speed bump.
Yep.
The CEO warns the team they can't run the business on autopilot.
Oh, I've heard that one a million times.
Right, and the finance lead is complaining that a consultant is acting like a backseat driver.
It's all vehicular language, just, used to describe momentum in an environment that is completely stationary.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, we have a stack of sources about a uniquely American cultural institution, which is the road trip. But, our mission today isn't to plan your next vacation.
No. We are looking at the linguistics.
Right. We're unpacking how the American road trip has secretly become, basically, the foundational operating system for American English, especially in the workplace.
It really is.
Because if you think about how a project runs, you set an itinerary, you trust your GPS, you cruise along the freeway of your goals, and then you panic the second you hit an unforeseen detour.
That is so true. Before we get too deep, we should probably just quickly define those core concepts for anyone listening.
Oh, yeah. Good call. So for the baseline vocabulary, a road trip is just a long-distance journey by car. An itinerary is your planned route or schedule. A detour is a longer alternate route you have to take when the main road is closed.
Right. And a freeway, highway, or interstate, those are basically all words for large multi-lane roads designed for high-speed travel. And GPS is just your digital navigation system.
Exactly. And that exact psychological sequence of navigating that physical landscape has completely rewired the corporate brain.
I mean, the physical journey has entirely become the philosophical framework. It's a brilliant lens to view the culture through. Because to understand how Americans work and measure success, you really have to start with the literal space they occupy when they travel.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we examine the office, we have to look at the physical architecture of the vehicle itself.
And the history of the journey.
Yes. Because long before there were paved interstates or GPS, there were stagecoaches kicking up dust on the 19th century frontier.
Right, which brings us to one of my absolute favorite phrases, riding shotgun.
Oh, it's so good.
It really is. If we look at riding shotgun, we see this direct, unbroken line from frontier survival to the modern suburban driveway. Historically, a guard armed with an actual shotgun would ride right beside the stagecoach driver.
Like a literal weapon.
Literal weapon, yeah. Their job was pure survival. Scanning the horizon, protecting the cargo from bandits. But if you fast forward to today, the literal meaning has lost the weaponry, obviously, but kept the geography. It just means claiming the right to sit in the front passenger seat of a car.
And here is where I find the cultural application so fascinating. Our sources highlight a really strict rule for this. You cannot just walk up to a car and silently slide into the front seat.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
You have to verbally call shotgun aloud before you enter the vehicle. You literally have to yell, "Called it, I'm riding shotgun," before anyone else does.
So the law of the land.
It is. And what strikes me is a bizarre sociology here. You have these highly paid, ruthless executives who will negotiate a $10 million contract down to the cent, but they will absolutely honor an unwritten, loudly yelled verbal dibs for a car seat.
I love that. And what's fascinating here is how a life or death survival tactic just seamlessly morphed into this playfully rigid, almost sacred modern ritual.
Is it just a silly game, though? Or does it show how fiercely Americans guard personal space?
Oh, it's definitely about hierarchy. The moment you unlock those doors, the car ceases to be just transportation. It transforms into a micro-society.
A micro-society. I like that.
Yeah, and it's highly structured.
Yeah.
The driver is the undisputed leader. The person in shotgun is the second in command, the navigator, the DJ. And the people in the back are, well, functionally just cargo.
Just cargo. That's hilarious. But it's true, you're establishing the social order of the tribe before the engine even turns over.
Exactly.
But okay, if shotgun establishes the hierarchy, what happens when it's challenged? Because once you lock that micro-society inside a metal box moving at 70 miles an hour, the battle for control really begins.
Oh, absolutely.
And this perfectly mirrors professional dynamics. So let's talk about the ultimate violator of this social contract, the backseat driver.
The absolute worst kind of passenger.
The worst.
Literally, this is someone sitting in the back who continuously gives unsolicited advice to the driver. They tell you to slow down. They gasp when you brake. They tell you should have merged 2 miles ago.
It is infuriating because it's someone who wants the illusion of control, but they don't carry any of the actual liability of holding the steering wheel.
Right. And that translates flawlessly to the modern workplace.
How so?
Well, when someone is labeled a backseat driver in an office setting, it usually refers to, like, a consultant or a middle manager who constantly critiques a project without actually doing any of the work.
Yeah. They have all the opinions, but no actual responsibility.
Exactly. Their hands are safely away from the controls. They face none of the consequences if the car crashes, you know?
That makes perfect sense. And if the backseat driver isn't complaining about your merging, the passengers in the very back are just losing their minds with process fatigue.
Which brings us to, are we there yet?
Yes. The sources talk about this phrase, are we there yet? It obviously originates as that endless, repetitive question from kids trapped on long trips.
Driving their parents crazy.
Right. But adults have totally co-opted it to express impatience with a stagnant process. You hear it in corporate meetings all the time, like, we've been revising this legal document for 6 months. Are we there yet?
It's perfect because it captures the agony of a journey that just feels structurally endless. And, that specific cabin fever inevitably turns outward toward the other vehicles on the road.
Which exposes a really glaring contradiction.
Yeah.
Because, wait a minute, the car is supposed to represent ultimate American freedom, right?
The open road.
The open road, wind in your hair.
Right.
But all our slang about actually being inside one, like cutting people off, or road rage, which is a totally American concept from the 1980s.
Oh, definitely.
It's entirely about frustration, claustrophobia, and a violent loss of control.
This raises an important question, though, about the massive gap between the ideal of the open road and the reality of navigating it.
Right.
The ideal is autonomy. But the reality is you're trapped in a tight space, moving at lethal speeds, and you are completely dependent on the competence of absolute strangers driving mere inches away from you.
That tension is profound.
It is, and it maps onto the workplace so well. You're conditioned to view yourself as this independent professional, but really, you're constantly relying on or being hindered by your coworkers. That forced interdependence is why the slang fits the office perfectly.
That makes a lot of sense. And that anxiety doesn't just stay in the cabin, it dictates how we measure progress. The language of highway momentum has just been copy-pasted into career trajectories.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I was in a meeting yesterday where someone said our software integration hit a speed bump. And it struck me how we sanitize the danger of these words.
What do you mean?
Well, literally, if you hit a massive speed bump at highway speeds, your car is totaled, your axle shatters.
Oh, for sure.
But in the office, it just means IT needs an extra week. We've taken all this high-stakes vehicular risk and smooths it out for middle management.
That sanitization is such a great observation. But notice the specific type of language the corporate world gravitates toward. It starts with taking action, right? Like hitting the road, which literally means beginning a journey, but figuratively means taking action on anything.
Right, or getting in the driver's seat to signify taking ownership of a campaign.
Exactly. But then it escalates past normal driving into high-stakes racing.
Oh, like burning rubber.
Yes, burning rubber. That comes from accelerating so violently that your tires literally squeal and melt on the asphalt.
But today, if a director says, we're really burning rubber on this project, they just mean the team is working at an intense breakneck speed.
And we have to ask why they adopted that specific racing slang. It coincides directly with the rise of hypercapitalism and treating employees like high-performance machines. Stagnation is viewed as a moral failure. You always have to be accelerating.
But relentless acceleration is incredibly dangerous, which brings us to being on autopilot.
This is a huge one. In a physical car, autopilot refers to highway hypnosis. You do the familiar motions of driving without conscious thought. You drive 40 miles, blink, and realize you have no memory of the last hour.
Terrifying. And in a business context, running a department on autopilot means doing things out of pure institutional inertia. You aren't innovating, you're just surviving on muscle memory.
And the danger of institutional autopilot is exactly the danger of highway hypnosis. You feel efficient, but your brain is checked out. So when a market shift happens, you won't react in time.
because you aren't mentally present to spot the speed traps.
Yes.
In the physical world, a speed trap is where police hide out of sight to catch speeding drivers. It's an invisible hazard. In business, a speed trap is a hidden penalty. Like, that vendor contract was a total speed trap, hidden fees everywhere.
The paranoia of the road translates directly to the paranoia of the free market. And, heaven forbid you try to avoid those speed traps by taking the scenic route.
Oh, taking the scenic route is so culturally loaded. Literally, it means a longer, visually beautiful path. But in a career, it's used as a humorous, highly self-deprecating way to describe a non-linear career path. Like, oh, my path to director, I definitely took the scenic route.
Notice how it requires self-deprecation. Corporate culture despises inefficiency. If you didn't take the fastest path from point A to point B, you have to frame it as a quirky scenic route to soften the fact that you weren't operating at maximum velocity.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's do a quick drill to test your ear for literal versus figurative uses of these phrases. You ready?
Yeah, ready, let's go.
4 fast rounds. I'll give you a sentence. You tell me if it's literal or figurative. Round 1. I hit a massive speed bump on Route 66.
Literal. You probably need a mechanic.
Spot on. Round 2.
Yeah.
The new vendor contract is a total speed trap.
Figurative. Watch out for those hidden fees.
Yep. Round 3. Let's put this entire marketing campaign on autopilot.
Figurative, and frankly, a terrible management decision.
Agreed. Last one. Round 4. I called shotgun before we even left the house.
Literal.
Yeah.
And legally binding in any American driveway.
Exactly. But, I really want to push back on this modern work ethic for a second. We've turned the office into a racetrack. Are we ever allowed to just park the car? Why is everything about forward motion?
Because the underlying cultural assumption is that stopping is equivalent to dying. On a literal highway, if you just stop in your lane, you cause a catastrophic pileup. You have to keep moving for the survival of the system.
But the biological reality is that you cannot maintain extreme momentum forever. The engine drains. And when that happens, the vocabulary shifts into the language of depletion, survival, and gas station culture.
It starts with the absolute necessity of stopping. The pit stop.
This phrase makes me laugh every time I hear it at work. A literal pit stop in NASCAR is a highly choreographed, incredibly dangerous 4-second stop to change tires.
It's intense.
But Americans use it for the most mundane things, like let's make a quick pit stop at the coffee shop before a meeting.
It's the ultimate linguistic reduction of a high-stakes activity into a casual errand.
I just picture a frantic NASCAR crew swarming a minivan to hand an accountant a latte. But it highlights this obsession with hyper-efficiency, even during rest.
Well, the reason for that obsession with time is tied to the geography. The American landscape is massive. If you run out of gas, you might find yourself in the middle of nowhere, just completely isolated. Or you might intentionally travel off the beaten path.
And out in the middle of nowhere, there is real anxiety about time, which gives us, we're losing daylight.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, it means hurry up because driving winding roads in the dark is dangerous. But figuratively, we're losing daylight on this report. We need a decision. Why are we telling coworkers that when we work in brightly lit offices that are open 24/7?
Because deep down, the human psyche is still tied to the frontier. Even in a skyscraper, we feel that primal survivalist urgency of the sun going down. Our brains understand encroaching darkness as a closing window of opportunity. It's highly effective manipulation.
Wow. Which brings us to actual physical depletion. Filling up, or tanking up, means getting gas, but we use it for eating or drinking coffee. And to prevent mental depletion, there's the ritual of the road trip playlist.
The playlist is crucial. Americans meticulously curate upbeat, nostalgic music for these trips. It's not just entertainment, it's a psychological tool.
Because if you don't manage your morale, you end up running on empty, literally coasting on fumes, figuratively having absolutely no emotional bandwidth left. Like after that 60-hour week, I am running on empty.
And we have to mention, this phrase was permanently cemented into the culture by Jackson Browne's 1977 song, Running on Empty. It's a massive cultural touchstone for that specific feeling of American exhaustion.
Such a great reference. The song captures the existential exhaustion of unrelenting forward motion, all these things, the playlist, the coffee pit stops. They're psychological defense mechanisms.
Yeah.
We use them to stave off the reality that the tank is dry.
We use the culture of the car to keep the mind running.
So what does this all mean? We started by imagining a corporate boardroom full of vehicular slang, and we traced it back to the asphalt. The American road trip is way more than an itinerary. It's the essential vocabulary for navigating career ambitions, conflict, and our own psychological limits.
It's a cultural operating system. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We've seen how professional language is deeply intertwined with car culture. But think about what a road trip actually is at its core. It's a journey designed specifically for escaping.
Right.
It's for leaving town, getting away from daily responsibilities. So if the everyday language of American business and productivity is based on a vehicle designed for escape, what does that tell us about how Americans subconsciously view work itself? Are they always secretly looking for the next exit?
Wow. Are we just driving fast so we can finally get away, sitting in that glass boardroom, wishing we were actually out there? That is a brilliant paradox, and it's going to sit with me for a while.
It's definitely something to think about.
Well, now we want to hear from you. We talked about the vital importance of managing morale on the journey. So, what is your ultimate road trip song? The one that instantly puts you in the mood to get in the driver's seat. Drop it in the comments in English and tell us the reason why. And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. See you next time, and watch out for those speed traps.